Skip's Marysville Music Cafe with lessons in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe. Helps if I turn up the level here. Ted Langdell here. We are with John Cassidy, our guest, and we're going to find out more about who John Cassidy is and why he is here as we talk with him about Lunch with Langdell. And we are live, and we're actually going to have lunch a little bit later, and John will tell you about what it is that we are going to be having. So a whole bunch of different things going on here as we talk with John Cassidy, our guest. And we are actually live. John, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ted. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you've been kind of a busy guy in the last several weeks, getting some things happening, a new event happening at, well, actually it used to be at the Peachtree Golf and Country Club out in Linda,
Yep.
Good old Linda, which has been actually starring in, you know, that was the location years ago. You might have been here. You might have remembered when the late actor, gosh, you know, this getting old stuff is getting old.
I'm right there with you.
But basically the, I'll think of his name in a minute, but the show was Brother John. Sidney Portier came out and shot some stuff out there. So
yeah, that's right. There's a lot of great things about Peachtree Golf and Country Club that people aren't aware of. There's been an amazing array of, even Darius Rucker last year played golf there, called it one of the best golf courses he's ever played. And for well over 30 years, the San Francisco Chronicle ranked that golf course in the top 20 in the entire state of California. So it's got quite a history. In fact, where we're sitting here eating lunch today, about a year and a half ago, right when COVID got really going, the City Club Bistro we're sitting at today, formerly the City Cafe, 23 years, the downtown really go-to restaurant in Yuba-Sutter, in Yuba City, was bought by Peachtree Golf and Country Club. So Peachtree Golf and Country Club actually owns the restaurant, even though it's open to the public. So it's really a cool spot.
Yeah. So a lot of things have changed since you first arrived in Yuba-Sutter.
Sure have.
And what I'd like to find out from you is, where did you start out in life? Because I don't recall you being born and raised here.
No, I would say I'm a native now, but I wasn't a native when I moved here in 1985. And looking back and thinking about the Rand McNally last place ranking, now looking top 10 in the country, Yuba-Sutter's certainly come a long way since I've moved here, and my wife and I, Christine, in 1985, and we love it here. But I was working for Great Western Bank and got a chance to manage their Marysville office here for a few years, and we moved here to do that. And I was actually born and raised in the city of San Francisco, and hopefully they've turned things around a little bit today with recent election results, and they're gonna get back on the straight and narrow and clean that city up. But I was born and raised in San Francisco and went to high school in the Bay Area, and then moved up, went to Butte Junior College, and then gravitated to the Yuba-Sutter region in 1985, and we haven't left, and we raised our daughter here, and now 2 grandkids, and we love Yuba-Sutter. We think it's a unique island in California where you're 2 hours from every possible type of existence you'd want to have, whether you're at the ocean, you're at Shasta Lake, you're at Lake Tahoe, you want to go into Oregon, you're just not very far from a lot of great things to do.
So how did being a Bay Area boy, a San Franciscan, influence you, and what did you bring to the Sacramento Valley when you moved out of San Francisco and went to school and got involved in activities up here? Tell us more about that.
Well, my uncle owned an Irish bar in San Francisco for 37 years. It was called the Dover Club. It was probably the most political bar in the city. You'd have the mayor at one end, you'd have the sheriff sitting in the middle with his wife, you'd have Senator Quentin Kopp at one end, you'd have the Mitchell brothers from the famous O'Farrell Theater, and you'd have 2 dock workers, people of all sorts of different ethnicities, a lot of Irish every night in there, and I was just very in tune to kind of what would happen and what could happen in regions based on how people stepped up, stepped in, tried to make things happen from a variety of perspectives. So I saw that growing up as a kid. I also grew up in the inner city of San Francisco, and I saw what it's like to live in an urban center and watch the trials and tribulations. I saw the 60s firsthand. Many people called that period the summer of love. Frankly, it was kind of the summer of stench, because a lot of the things that went on in Golden Gate Park and in and around San Francisco really, really created challenges for people that lived there. I'll just leave it at that. And then growing up, moving out to the East Bay, I went to high school in Livermore. When I was a freshman, we moved out to East Bay. So I went from the urban center to the suburbia, expanding suburbia, the Pleasanton, Livermore, Dublin, Walnut Creek, that whole region just exploded. So I saw firsthand what happened in suburbia.
So when did you move to Livermore?
Back in 1972. So right when that area was really exploding. That whole Tri-Valley area, a lot of people were getting out of the cities they wanted better quality of life. And frankly, that's one of the reasons I went to Northern California to start my college career. I ended up finishing at USF, University of San Francisco, ironically. But once I got out of the Bay Area and just the traffic, you could just feel the commotion, the traffic. People's lives were just so fast. And the quality of life was deteriorating because everybody was mobilizing in the East Bay there, and the traffic congestion on 580 and 101 was just getting worse and worse. When you come to a region like, Butte County or Sutter County, or even I spent some time in Shasta County, and you have space and people can breathe, and you have much higher quality of life when you're not stuck in traffic, and you can get from point A to point B in a reasonable amount of time. It changes your perspective on the world, and I could see that. So I was very fortunate to come to a place like Yuba-Sutter in 1985 and be able to be part of a community and get entrenched pretty fast. Kind of funny that the flood of 1986 was such a tragedy, but for me, I got to meet more people and got involved in helping people through the Marysville Kiwanis Club and other organizations I was involved, because what I learned really quickly was there's the amount of giving and the soul of this community during a crisis was amazing to see how people helped each other get through that turbulent period, that 1986 flood, and then again in 97. So, yeah, I guess I was meant to, Christine and I were meant to kind of be here.
So you went to school in Livermore, at least graduated from high school there.
Correct.
In
Granada High School, yes. Yeah, a Matador. And if Craig Marcus is watching, nobody likes the Livermore Cowboys, Craig. Yes, Craig hails from Livermore. So we have an ongoing battle. Craig Marcus, of course, the tribal administrator for Enterprise Rancheria.
So you graduated from high school down there when?
That's the rumor. 1977.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We came up here in 1965 from Walnut Creek. So
wow.
I remember when Walnut Creek was developing and the area there was developing. We used to have a great picture window view of Mount Diablo looking from the west to the east, and then we could also see what became, or the ridge that became, if you went over the ridge, the Rossmore development.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So
yeah, the big retirement community. Oh yeah. Big time. Oh yeah, and you guys, that region was probably 10 to 15 years ahead of the Livermore Pleasanton explosion.
Yeah.
Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, Concord, all that exploded a little bit earlier than that. But yeah, that whole basin there has just become, a tremendous area to live, but a lot of congestion.
Yeah, and it's also expensive.
Very expensive.
The house that my folks paid, I think less than $10,000 for in 1951. When we moved up here in '65, it sold for around $18,000. The guy who bought it passed away, and his niece or nephew or something inherited it. And after some improvements they made about 5 years, 10 years ago, it's probably worth $1 million.
Oh yeah, no question. Yeah, no question.
Yeah. So you graduated from high school. You went to school at University of San Francisco.
Went to Butte Junior College first. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did that do for you? How did that affect you or change you?
Oh, I made so many lifelong friends there. I was involved in their basketball program, and it was a great experience. Meeting, met a lot of people in the ag business. Salt of the earth folks that, every day ground out a living, and you learn to appreciate people that made a lot of money wearing jeans and worked their butts off. And again, just being, in Northern California and having a lot of space, and it take you 10 minutes to go 10 miles versus an hour and a half to go 10 miles like the Bay Area had become. And it's even worse now. So yeah, just I met made my lifelong friends there, and so yeah, it was just a tremendous opportunity, and then got a chance to get in the financial service businesses with, at the time, Great Western Bank.
So hello, that's me. We're talking with John Cassidy. He is retired now from the banking business, but definitely not retired from life. Actually, let's get the right pictures and people up here. When you do all this yourself, it can be a little bit of a challenge, especially when you're trying to make sure that the stream itself is not breaking up. And if you've been watching and we've been having a little breakup, I see Rosemary Dow is watching.
Yeah, tell Rosemary she's got to get to those Gold Sox games.
I think
Let's go.
Just did that.
Yeah.
But we're here at the City Club, which is the former City Cafe on Plumas Street in Yuba City, and we're spending lunch with Langdell, talking with John Cassidy. John, again, retired from Sierra Central Credit Union. Before that, he was with Washington Mutual, which had been previously
I don't usually
Bank.
talk about Washington. Washington Mutual was a very short tenure because they had merged Great Western Bank out of business. Great Western Bank was actually a pretty well-run, really high-quality institution that ran into problems based on Y2K and some other things. I wasn't really enamored with Washington Mutual, and Washington Mutual isn't around anymore, so I probably got that one right. So yeah.
So, but your banking experience didn't start until after you'd gone from Butte County, Butte College, and it sounds like that had an influence on where you wanted to return, or where you wanted to ultimately live.
We wanted to stay in Northern California. My wife's from Ukiah, which is just east of here, a couple hours, right off of 101 and Highway 20 there. And so, yeah, the rural lifestyle definitely suits us, much better than the urban lifestyle. Just more, again, you can spread out, you can enjoy space. It's just not as congested. Life's quality of life's much better in a region like this, and we found that out. And we've seen the Yuba-Sutter region grow and gain a lot of wonderful components it didn't have when we first got here. This area is really becoming an island of destination for businesses and for people that want to raise families, run businesses, and again have a good quality of life.
Again, we're talking with John Cassidy. We're having a little bit of technical trouble with some of our camera gear here. Live streaming is always an adventure because you never exactly know what sort of circumstances you're going to run into. With the environment, there's a lot of congestion. You talk about traffic and what have you, with internet and that sort of thing, cell phones and what have you. So you do the best you can, and at least we've got one shot that seems to be holding up here, and that also allows us to talk to John. So John Cassidy went to school in San Francisco. What did you study at University of San Francisco?
Oh, business, yeah, and organizational behavior is what my degree was in, and I've always been a kind of a point guard as a basketball player, and mindset, as a basketball player, coach, and organizational behavior is kind of, you're a point guard. You're making sure that an organization can move forward on all fronts, and it served me well in my banking career, because there are a lot of components and a lot of different aspects in the financial service businesses where you're trying to help a consumer reach their goals, and you need a lot of different inputs and a lot of different types of expertise to kind of come together to help people. And when you can manage that well, you gain the trust of the client, the consumer, the customer, if you will, the member in the case of credit unions, and you're helping those people throughout their economic lives reach their goals. And so it served me well in my career.
So your first job out of school, where was that, and what did you do?
Well, I actually worked for a business equipment company, did equipment leasing for a couple years out of, they had offices in Eureka, Redding, and Chico, and actually Ukiah, where I met my wife, which is the reason I met her. I was working down there for a little while. And then when we were in Chico, I got a chance to go to work for Great Western Bank. Richard Moore, who was an outstanding senior executive, ended up senior executive with Great Western Bank, actually in Los Angeles, but he was in the Chico region. Worked for Richard for a number of years, close to 15, and just learned the business, built a really good network of clients in Northern California, did a lot of regional marketing for them, had a great clientele here in Marysville, California for many years. It's funny, I still walk down the street and people still come up and ask me for help with their banking needs. Some people they go back 30 years with. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but yeah. And then that was a Great Western Bank had John Wayne as its spokesperson when I got there. Got to meet John and spend some time with him, and strength, character, the Western strength and theme, and John really represented that brand so well for many years before he died, and it was a great company to work for. And really enjoyed my time there.
So you're basically moving from one type of financial services into the banking business, come here, and that was in when?
1985. Yeah,
1985.
And then so I did that until 2000, and I got the opportunity. I always wanted to be a president of a local bank. I'd met several bankers through my uncle. When growing up as a kid, my dad worked for Bank of America, and I met a lot of folks that were difference makers in communities. And I just felt like if I could lead a financial institution at some point, I could help make a difference for a community. And I got the opportunity in 2000 when Jim Kennedy, who was the treasurer of Yuba County, sent a headhunter after me. They were doing a national search for CEO for Sierra Central Credit Union. They'd been at it a little over a year, and they didn't really find the right person. And then he came after me with the headhunter, and got an opportunity to take that role on in 2000. The credit union was struggling. It had a lot of issues, and I was tasked with either merging it or fixing it, and fortunately we fixed it, took it from a $200 million institution to well over $1.5 billion when I left earlier in 2022 when I retired in January of 22 after 22 years at the helm there as CEO. And we had a great run. And Ron Sweeney, who worked for me for 22 years and has taken over as CEO, is doing a phenomenal job. And their best days are ahead. And excited about the future for Sierra Central Credit Union, especially with this northeastern quadrant of California. So many people moving here. I'm talking from Roseville over to Yuba City, all the way north to the Oregon border and east to Susanville. That whole quadrant is exploding because people are trying to get out of the cities. Again, kind of like what I wanted to do is to get a better quality of life in 1985. It's no different today. I think there's even more inertia for people to get to more rural type of settings where they can control their environments. And when I was leaving Sierra Central earlier this year, we were seeing that the last couple of years where people were really gravitating to places like Yuba City, Marysville, Grass Valley, Chico, Redding, Auburn, Placerville, all points northeast in California for a better quality of life. And Sierra Central Credit Union certainly can help people and will continue to help people grow in their financial, meet their financial needs. So that's kind of how we set the table there.
Well, we watched you, and we're having some little technical trouble here with some of our signals from different cameras. This one here is me. I'm frozen, and the one of John is also frozen. So that's why you're seeing us sit on this wide shot here. We are in the City Club, which is on Plumas Street in Yuba City, and we're talking lunch with Langdell, with John Cassidy, who's retired, but still retired from working for a business, but definitely not retired from doing things. So when you and I first met, I think it was when I was active in the chamber in the early 90s.
I think so.
And we were both working on the Yuba-Sutter Great Place to Live, Work, and Play campaign.
I believe so.
Linda Plummer and Chuck Smith and the chamber
both
executives.
Rock stars, by the way. Chuck and Linda, just amazing talent. Congratulations to Linda on her retirement.
Yeah.
What a difference maker she's been for this community. She put this community on the map she was really the first. She was a New York advertising specialist, and when she got here, she changed the whole face of this region with her graphic skills. I mean, amazing stuff, what she put out there that caught on nationally. Pretty amazing talent. Linda Plummer, and Chuck, too. Chuck, an incredible writer. Chuck Smith.
Yeah. And if our broadcast died, we hope that it comes back again. This is not the greatest environment that we've been discovering, but, this is live streaming. It's kind of like life. You get on the freeway and hope you get to your destination without any unfortunate incidents. Again, Ted Langdell here on Yuba-Sutter.live, live streaming YS on Facebook, and we're talking with that character,
I've been called a lot of things.
John Cassidy. Gosh, how did you avoid being called Jack?
Oh, people have. Oh, yeah. I've been called a lot of things, Ted. Most of them I can't say on the air, so it's all good.
Okay. So the lunch is going to be arriving. We may get actually lunch with Langdell here in a little bit.
Absolutely.
We've ordered, or John has ordered for us. What did you order for us?
Oh, it's called the Salmon Cassidy.
Why?
Yeah. And it's, first of all, it's the #1 selling item for 23 years on both the lunch and dinner menu. I want to be clear about that. 23 years, formerly the City Cafe, now the City Club Bistro right here, 667 Plumas Street. It's owned and operated now by Peachtree Golf and Country Club, but it is open to the public, and they serve a phenomenal menu. But yeah, the Salmon Cassidy, like I said, been #1 on the, not that I'm proud of that, #1 on the dinner and lunch menu. But it's a great salad. Jeff Boutillier, the original owner, and I sat at the bar one Thursday afternoon here. Actually, early evening, and he wanted me to try this salad he was experimenting with, and he had tried some different things with it, and I said, no, sweeten up the dressing and throw some walnuts on there, or pecans on there, and you got any dried cherries, and he just happened to get a bag of dried cherries. I said, mix those in there. And so we went back and forth. Finally, he nailed it. He goes, God, that's good. I go, yeah, it's really good. I go, put that on the menu tomorrow. He goes, well, I don't know if it's ready for the menu. I go, put it on the menu tomorrow, make it a lunch special, and you'll sell 25 or more. You'll sell out. And he goes, no, there's no way. I go, I'll bet you $100. I bet him $100. And next day, he owed me $100. It sold out. and then it stayed on the lunch menu forever, and then they added it to the dinner menu about 4 months later, and it even sold there. So it's a really fun site. You'll find out.
Okay.
It's pretty good meal.
The interesting thing here is that we've had good food, and Jeff, who you've been mentioning, was the head chef at one of our other fine white tablecloth restaurant, Al Cafe.
Historic.
And a story, probably the most famous person that I've ever had an opportunity to have some interaction with was San Francisco attorney Melvin Belli. And this little short guy and his attorney, this was during the Lyndhurst High School. There was a trial over in Yuba County, and I was covering that for KUBA. And I'm getting ready to leave, and I see him and Alicia Besserell, his attorney that was actually doing most of the work, standing outside the Yuba County Courthouse in the chill. And I thought, this isn't good for somebody that old, because my dad was getting older. So I offered him a seat in my 89 Nissan Sentra, which he accepted. And at some point he decided, because they were waiting for their investigator to come along, and I guess he was tied up somewhere. And he said, well, why don't you take us to the best restaurant in the area? And I thought, okay, let's go to Al's Cafe. So we did, and he enjoyed the hell out of that. Liked the roasted garlic. And I wish we had gone back there the second time this happened. Because we went up to Pasquini's, and it was all right, but it was a bit noisy and da-da-da-da-da, and I think we would have been better at Al's Cafe.
I had dinner at Pasquini's last night. It was pretty good.
Well, you know, we've got
Cowboy
good
Italian's
restaurants.
pretty good.
And you might remember Tony's over on Hamilton, Smartsville Road, Hamilton Road, which was, as I was told back then, a 4-star Michelin or Mobile
at one time
restaurant at one time.
Michelin,
so, you know, this area has had some interesting things in it that have not necessarily been widely known.
Pasquini's is world famous. I mean, you have, you know, Bing Crosby, Clint Eastwood. I mean, that's the Duck Hunters restaurant, right? And what Angelo has done there in the last 5-10 years, it's better than it's ever been. I mean, it's such a remarkable place to eat. Yeah, it's got its own ambiance. It's fun, noisy. It's cowboy Italian, but it's a remarkable restaurant. We are very fortunate with the food choices we have. You know, you got Sopa Thai up the street here in Yuba City, Happy Viking, the new Irish pub, downtown Irish pub that is awesome. You've got Sutter Buttes Brewing right over here on around the corner. I mean, we've got some dining choices in Yuba City that are remarkable. Justin's on the corner has done really well. For a community this size, there's some great choices, and frankly, Al's Cafe kind of started it, and Jeff, he and his brother did that, but Jeff was the chef. He was the chef. And then Jeff and Kathy started City Cafe here 23 years ago, now the City Club Bistro, and it's been remarkable. And Jeff is a world-class chef, and so we're lucky. We got great food choices here.
Tell me, kind of, and don't make it a thumbnail necessarily, but how have you seen the community change since you came here, and where was it then, and how is it now? And here comes lunch.
So I will. Here's Cheeky's throwing on the wonderful Sam and Cassidy, 2 of them here. Thank you.
Let me hold this up to the camera.
Here we go.
This is the lunch, folks.
That's the Sam and Cassidy. There you go. You see the dried cherries and
let me get it.
The blue cheese on there.
This way a little bit. Get it.
Yep, and the pecans and a salmon steak, and it's here lunch or dinner.
I can tell that's.
I'll take some pepper, Cheek. Fire on there. That's perfect. Yeah, it's a fun meal. And I like to get two. I like to get 2 dressings just because that dressing is so good. And that's the one we got the argument over. So Jeff and we had a lot of fun with that.
So we're actually going to get to do lunch with Langdell.
Thank you, Chief.
And Cassidy here. Thank you, John, for ordering.
Perfect. Thank you. You got it.
And apparently we may or may not have a signal going out, but I believe we are still recording. So you know, it's live streaming. It's you never quite know what you're going to get. It's sort of like a box of chocolates. You never
Something
know what
like
you're
that.
Get. Yeah.
That famous line. Hey, so you asked me a great question.
Yeah.
And I'll answer.
Because this community has changed.
Yeah, I would say more. I would say the good thing is it hasn't changed. The better thing is it's evolved. Okay, so I don't think you know, when you look at the character of the community hasn't changed. This is probably the most giving community per capita. There's not a weekend that goes by where there's not 900 charitable events that you can participate in where people are trying to help each other. Obviously, Say Love lately has been getting a ton of publicity, and I'll touch on that a little bit too. They, going out and cleaning up communities and areas and schools and parks and making those venues.
That group has grown, really grown.
When you can get 600 people out on a weekend once a month, voluntarily, to go pick up old cars, old boats, couches, chairs, rebuild fences in parks, rebuild gardens in parks. That's an amazing thing in any community. That's a lot of people. And it's really kind of a bellwether of what goes on here all the time. You just had the Marysville Kiwanis Jim Watson's 70th annual fishing derby at Ellis Lake. I knew Jim personally. He was a very close friend, former 4-time mayor of Marysville, played on the 47 Washington Redskins NFC Championship team, ran an amazing real estate business here, a tremendous leader in the community, and his legacy living on. When that lake, when you see literally 1,000 kids around the lake with fishing poles catching fish at Ellis Lake, which is nice to see the changes and the cleanup that's taken place there. Pretty amazing stuff. So we're a unique community. I'll use the point, I don't think the community's changed at all. I think it's just evolved. It just keeps getting better and better. And I've been involved, like you have, in a lot of efforts to improve the economics of the region since I got here in 1985. And I told people this from the beginning. I said, the New York skyline or the San Francisco skyline was not built with good intentions. They were built with capital. And I would say over the last 10 years, for the first time ever, the amount of capital that's flowing and the things that are happening here financially, finally, capital is increasing here. It's building upon itself. People are investing from the outside like never before. We've got a brand new Holiday Inn hotel going down at the end of Plumas Street here.
Yep.
You've got, you look at, I'll use Sierra Central Credit Union as an example. When we built that building almost 8 years ago, 52,000 square foot, 2-story, state-of-the-art financial service center to serve our 20 branches in northeastern California. People were looking at us like we were crazy. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you going to Reno?
And why are you building it that far west?
Correct.
Well, it's interesting because when we moved up here into not one side of the tracks or the other in Linda, but to Hamilton Road and Lyndhurst Avenue. And at that time, Beale Air Force Base was cooking with B-52s. I think it was just before they had brought in the spy planes in 1965. So from 1965 to 70, we lived in Linda. Not one side of the tracks or the other. So you could look down one way and you could see the California Zephyr go by and look and see the SP trains going across the street. That area has changed. I remember when the LCO Circus restaurant on North Beale Road, which later became Duke's after a couple of different iterations of something else, was one of the better restaurants in the area. And what I've noticed, and we talk about North Beale Road, it's getting a bit of a facelift.
Thankfully, yes.
With a design that's very similar, I was noticing, to what they're doing on 5th Street in Marysville right now, and also what was done with Bridge Street between between Plumas and Cooper Avenue.
Yep.
And now they're going to extend that because they've acquired enough right-of-way to do that. So there's stuff happening, and I just noticed that there's a lot of a different kind of energy in the area in the last couple of years, in spite of COVID.
Right. Well, I think, like we built that building in I'll just go back to that Sierra Central building just because it was a real postage stamp for the area, because people were wondering why we weren't doing it in Redding or Chico or Reno. Well, you could sense at that time that, things were changing in Yuba-Sutter, and particularly in Sutter County at that time and in Yuba City. The amount of interest from everybody from, Costco, and thank God now Costco's coming to our region. It's going to be in Yuba County, and that's great for Yuba County and for Yuba-Sutter. But there was a lot of interest, but you hadn't seen any dominoes fall. Well, we built that building, and all of a sudden we're getting attention from all sorts of businesses. Pete's came up and they looked at our building, and they were asking the question why we built there, as well as many other businesses. And I think we were a real catalyst for people looking at the region differently when we put that building up. And other people have done the same thing. You look at what the Hilbers family has done, and the things they've built in and around the area, and the improvements they've made. And there was just a little bit of inertia, and then all of a sudden became a lot of inertia. And now when you look on the Yuba County side, with obviously the Yuba County Water Agency, getting funded in a different way because the lease rights came back to Yuba County for Bullard's Bar, all of a sudden there's some available cash to improve and enhance the waterways and what have you, and have it spill over in economic development. And then you go to South County and you look in the Wheatland Hub, and obviously the Hard Rock development, the Enterprise Rancheria Tribe, and that investment, that's the largest unsecured bond investment ever in the western United States. That's a $500 million project, putting that hotel and casino complex together. And now with the new $75 million, 2,500 seat, 56,000 square foot, best ever concert venue indoor, I want to stress indoor concert venue ever built for acoustics and technology in the United States. And it's right here in Yuba-Sutter. And they've just blown the doors off, kicking that thing open with Tyler Rich with the private event. I'll talk about that. And then with Maroon 5 a week later.
Have a bite of your food, because I'm gonna kind of fill a little time here.
Great.
Let people know that we hope that you are able to see us, because it seems as though we've been having some routine, I hope they're not routine, technical issues here that we're trying to work out. If you are still hearing us but not seeing us, know that we will post the replay of this from our recording a little later today, and make it possible for you to see the whole 9 yards, including John's review of the cooking from the kitchen here of the Cassidy salad. Cassidy salmon. I guess this is a salad, isn't it?
It's a salmon Cassidy, they call it. Yep.
The salmon Cassidy.
Yep.
So anyway, the point I was trying to make about living in Linda is then when in 1970, my dad wanted to expand and do some things and own the building that they were in. And so what he did is started looking around, and somewhere along the line he ran across some information that Pacific Telephone had decided to locate its facility out on Harder Road, or was it Tharp? That's Tharp Road.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So he thought, okay, well, if we go a little bit further west from there, the city will grow to meet us. And that's exactly what happened. So we moved out to 2372 Butte House Road and lived around the corner at 1539 Villa Avenue, and that was where the folks had their business for quite a while. I ended up down in Sacramento shooting Governor Brown with a film camera back in the days of film, and kind of did that for a while, worked down there, and then came back up here in 1988 to work for KUBA. But that's a whole nother story. But the community has changed, and part of it, I think, is the fact that it's a bedroom community for Sacramento. That has had some benefits. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that in terms of the economics and what the development in the south part of Yuba County has had, and in the southern end of Yuba City, where people have been moving.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a great point, Ted. I mean, you saw it, in Walnut Creek, right? I saw it in moving from San Francisco to Livermore. It's no different. When an urban area gets overbuilt, people look for better quality of life, and they look for cheaper housing. And let's face it, the same house you could get in 5-10 years ago, the same house you could get in Yuba-Sutter, maybe not as true today, for you buy it in Sacramento, it costs you $300,000. The same house was $225 or $200 in Yuba-Sutter, and it's only a 35 minute commute. And now when you look at the 4 lanes going back and forth, it looks like a pretty easy ride. Plus, then you get a more of a small town lifestyle. You get excited, and that's, I think, what's helped spur growth here as well. Is no question, it's become more of a bedroom community for Sacramento. Plus, with the airport, 35 minutes door to door for most people in Yuba-Sutter, International Airport, a great airport. This becomes a pretty nice place to choose to live and run your business, grow your family, work for a business, work whatever. It's the quality of life here is really, really good. Like I said earlier in the broadcast, I think this little island of Yuba-Sutter, especially over the last 3 to 5 years, has really become a really nice place to locate. And you're seeing it in the rankings nationally on a variety of different platforms, where we were last by Rand McNally in 86, 87, whatever it was when that came out. And today we're in the top 10 in many of those same type of rankings for quality of life. So it's really a credit to the people here. and the people that have been in government and planners who have really, really helped change this. And then you look at, again, the Enterprise Rancheria and that investment in South Yuba County with the Hard Rock project, now Hard Rock Live with the concert venue and Hard Rock Hotel Casino, and Mark Bertha, the CEO down there, and his team, Craig Marcus and the tribal administration, Glenda Nelson, the tribal leader. Just an amazing amount of investment taking place in Yuba-Sutter. And people are looking at this region different. And before, you and I have been here a long time. This was not looked upon as a great place to locate. And obviously 86 and 97 highlighted that with the flood issues. Now with the levee work that's all been done and still continuing, obviously there's that perspective has changed.
Well, and that's one of the things that we're trying to help people understand. There's a lot of longtime folks here who have seen the warts, and unfortunately too many people remember just the warts, or they lament the fact that Marysville was this or Yuba City was that. And yes, it's great to hold on to those memories, but those can trap you from seeing where things are going or being able to participate in that kind of thing.
You know, you make a great point there. I want to touch on that because it's funny, because one of the lines, and I'll share an interesting story with you. One of the lines that, you know, I used to use all the time with people. Well, yeah, the first Macy's store was in R.H. Macy's, buried in the cemetery here.
Charles, yes, his brother. They ran the store.
Yeah, they had the first Macy's store, and it was in Marysville. Well, that was a used to be. It doesn't really matter anymore. There's no Macy's here now. Now you can point down the road to Hard Rock and go, hey, we got the best indoor concert venue that's ever been built in the United States right here. And it's here and it's live and it's moving forward. And you look at all the other things that are happening, that's just kind of the current poster child, if you will, of all the good things happening in Yuba-Sutter. And I stressed that at the concert. We can talk about that in a little while.
Yeah.
Last Thursday. But yeah, it's much different to be able to say that, hey, this is what's happening here, not this is what happened here. And I think your point, you just nailed that. And that's really, and I give, you know, Marnie Sanders, you look at what she's done with the Chamber of Commerce. This chamber's alive and cooking and killing, and they just did their most recent membership drive about a year ago, and it was an extraordinary, we're getting waved at, it was an extraordinary success, unlike they've ever had. And they went out to the business community, and the business community responded. And the last two galas have been at Hard Rock Live. And I got to give Calusa Casino credit, too. They really had a hand in helping this community grow and prosper as they grew and prospered over in Calusa County, and they had to reach into this community. And now with Hard Rock, kind of the next level, and actually located in Yuba County, things are really, really cooking, and it's obvious to so many people, finally. So that's a good thing. But well, my other point I was going to make is I'll never forget in 1990 I brought, I'm not going to name the brewery. People can guess. They can figure it out themselves. Brought a pretty prominent brewery here to look at this region as a second location. They needed to expand quickly. They were just, their volume of business was off the charts nationally. Anyway, they loved the rail spurs that we had here because it saved them having to worry about moving grain costs on trucking them.
That's expensive.
Special delivery. Is this cash?
I can hear you through the wall.
Thank you, Taryn.
Like
Thank you, Tara Pruce, former Great Westerner, rock star investment rep. Thank you, Tara. We're going to put the Cassidy salmons on your bill, so thank you. Yeah, so we had them here. We worked with some stuff with some folks in Yuba County at the time and the city of Marysville. And finally, after about 3 months of getting stuff kind of going, I got a call on a Sunday afternoon from the CEO, and he said, hey, look, we really appreciate all the effort, but we're going to have to move on. We can't work with people who step over dollars to pick up nickels. This is way bigger than they can really perceive, and we've got to move faster, and they just don't have the capacity to do it. Well, that's all changed. That's changed, and that was like, I'm going to say early 90s, maybe late 80s.
How much of that change is influenced by people who came here from elsewhere or people who are homegrown and stayed here?
I think it's a blend.
Or have maybe left and came back.
I think it's more that. More people that left and came back, and it's a blend. I think you have some people like myself who've come in from the outside who have a little bit different perspective on the world. I think you have some incredibly talented people. You look at the McKelly family, you know, Pasquini's and all their farming and cold storage and all the investments they've made in property. There's so many.
You got Charlie Matthews over on the Yuba Water Agency.
Yeah, you got some. Yeah, the whole Matthews family.
Well, I mean, but what impresses me and what I value, and I think other people do, is the long-term memory, the institutional memory, and I hope that that doesn't get lost somewhere in the.
I don't think it is. I think people appreciate that. I think they're building on that. They're not walking away from that or just trying to bury the. I think that's the beauty of what you've got in this Yuba-Sutter island, if you will. I mean, you've got a lot of really smart. I mean, look at Larry Booth, Rankin Booth.
Oh yeah,
you know, that guy's as worldly as there is, and his company's as successful and worldly. You look at the Hilbers. You're talking about a lot of bright, very smart people. You know, David Lonzo walked by us. You know, the Lonzos have invested a fortune in this community and developed a lot and continue to do that.
Well, it hasn't been officially announced by Costco yet, but other Yuba County officials, if you will, have indicated that Costco is going to be coming to the former Peachtree Mall.
I think that's a pretty good bet. Yeah, and I think David and the family are involved in that.
And there's some excitement about that, that I think is going to help regenerate what's happening there. And the other part of that is that there's lots of land parcels that can be used for commercial businesses or can be used to develop some of the affordable housing, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. That what do we do to get affordable housing, and what level of is that dollar value?
I think capital follows capital. So once you break the inertia, that's when all the stuff starts happening. Whether it's Holiday Inn down the street here, Costco across the river, Sierra Central Credit Union 8 years ago, when people start spending money and investing, other people look to the same corridor, and people are looking for quality places to invest. You know, housing, you know, affordable housing, you know, relatively speaking, we have a lot of affordable housing here relative to the rest of California, right? That's one of the reasons it's done well. And I think you're seeing a lot of development in Yuba City, a lot more housing now being developed finally again for the first time in decades. But the cost, you know, the cost to build housing is not cheap in California, even though people try to make it as inexpensive as possible to get it done. There's so many restrictions and so many regulations. It's hard to meet all the criteria necessary. But I think, you know, this region has a shot to do it right, and I think it's moving in the right direction. And I think there'll be plenty of affordable housing here over time relative to the rest of the region, which will help continue to spur growth. Because, you know, you got a lot, you know, there's 1,300 new jobs out there in the last 3 years at that casino alone. That's a lot of employees looking for places to stay and live. So in the short run, I know it's been hard, but I think in the long run, you'll see more affordable housing options. What
do you see as the short-term challenges, the long-term challenges, and the opposite side of those coins?
Well, I think one of the things that has to be improved, it's not just a Yuba-Sutter issue, but it's a statewide and a national issue, is our educational systems need a huge enhancement. And Yuba-Sutter is an area that definitely could use a jolt of movement in that area. Our schools we have to do a better job with our schools. I give Tony Dotson a lot of credit at Yuba College. She's come in there like a ball of fire and really is trying to direct that school in a way to where they get people through in a couple of years, so they can get through in 2 more years to get a 4-year degree, you know, in an expedient fashion. They're not languishing there for 7 or 8 years because they can't get what they need. And also their focus on trades and trying to get people, either they're nursing or welders or plumber, whatever. Their focus, I think, is finally in the junior college level back to where it should be, is serving the community's needs and making those things happen. And she's come in there and really done a good job of getting them real. I'm really impressed with her leadership there, and I think the future's bright for Yuba College in that regard.
Other classes or other types of classes that you think need to be available locally in order to make it possible for people to get their education here without having to travel?
I think more high tech. I mean, and obviously the internet's helping. You know, obviously there's ways you can improve it and partner, and I think the college is trying to do that. And I think I look at what Tom Russler's doing. as a superintendent, and I look at, there's a lot of things that people are trying to do to make our schools better here, but that's an area of focus that, citizens with kids that are, of school age need to really pay attention to, really pay attention to what school boards are doing and where they're focusing the, what little money they do control and what curriculum they do control, to really try to get that, math, science, English, really get the skill sets developed that matter. I think that focus needs to really be enhanced and continue to grow in order for this region to continue to grow. And there's been talk about, there's a lot of things that are going on under the surface that people aren't going to be aware of for a while that are going to make a big difference here. And education is going to be a big part of that. There are other college opportunities, I think, that are going to be in play here in Yuba-Sutter in the not too distant future, and a lot of technology plays that are going to be made. We have Beale Air Force Base at our doorstep. That's the high-tech base of the entire nation. The stuff that goes on out there reconnaissance-wise, the stuff that people know about and 99% of none of us know about, is as high-tech as it gets in the entire world. And there's a spillover from that. You got McDonnell Douglas, you've got all these military industrial complex technology firms that operate up and down California that want to be part of this region. You've got UC Davis, University of California, Berkeley. You've got now you've got a Cal Poly campus at Humboldt. I think you could see a Cal Poly campus in the north here someday as well. There's a lot of inertia for making some things happen educationally here and from a technology standpoint, just because of what's in the region. And that includes Beale Air Force Base, which plays a big role. So I'm really excited about some of the things that are going on that aren't being talked about yet that I think could happen here in the near future as well, to help propel more capital investment and create more opportunities for folks in this region to move forward even faster.
Yeah, we hear a lot about people who have capital to invest, businesses. They are looking for a well-trained, or at least a well-equipped, trainable workforce.
Absolutely.
In the area.
Yep.
And that's where the basic education comes in.
Yep.
So you had a role in starting not just an event, but the event.
Yep.
Tell us how that came to pass. Why did you do that, and what was the reason that you got it started and have continued to help it along? What does it do?
So in 2013, working with Nate Pomeroy, who was the general manager of Peachtree Golf and Country Club at the time, we were looking for ways to so Peachtree, it was opened in 1959. It's the #1 location for charitable dollars being raised in this community. It's raised millions of dollars through its golf tournaments and different events out there over the years, because it's been really the only place where you could facilitate, large gatherings with food services, have the restrooms available, and have space where you could actually have large gatherings and raise a lot of money. So whether it was a golf tournament or some kind of concert or whatever, that's always been a big deal out there. It's always been a big part of Peachtree Golf and Country Club. But that facility was getting older. There were some things that needed to be fixed, and so we created an event where it was kind of a threefold event. One was to improve the facilities a little bit at a time, raise money for charity, and to be an annual the event. The term I came up with, the event, so you would always look once a year. You had to be at the event because you wanted to be seen, heard, be able to network with other business people, have your team of employees or family network with other folks. So you wanted it to be an attractive enough event to be the event where people would look forward to it every year and came. So that's what we created. We started in 2013 with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Dave Mason. We just disagree, and only you know and I know, and he was an amazing, he put on an amazing show. That show sold out, and that was 10 years ago. So this year was the 10th anniversary, and we accomplished a lot at Peachtree. And with the new venue here at Hard Rock being open, it just made sense to move the event this year there, because you save about $60,000 in cost. You don't have to create the video boards, the staging, the sound, the lights, the generators, the security,
right.
all the things you have to pay for to put a concert on. It's all built in. You don't have weather problems because it's an indoor facility and it's state of the art. And the tribe really wanted to partner with it. They wanted to have a hand in making the quality of life better for folks in the community through charitable donations, and so it just became a really good fit. The Tribe embraced it, Mark Bertha and Hard Rock embraced it, and literally in 3.5 weeks we were able to pull it off. This year, 2,500 people were there. It was the 10th annual. It was May 26th, Thursday night. Tyler Rich came back to town. Home local boy made good. You know, he's one of the top country artists in the entire United States. He had just played in front of 20,000 people in Sacramento at Country in the Park the week before, 2 weeks before. And this was a private event. We couldn't sell tickets to it because Maroon 5 was coming in a week later for the public official opening. But everybody jumped on board. I had 65 incredible sponsors. Adventist Hospital, Sierra Central Credit Union, the McKelly family, Hilbers Incorporated, the list goes on and on. It's a who's who of businesses, and you can put the flyer up when you do the rebroadcast of this. But basically the who's who of businesses in Yuba-Sutter jumped all over that, and some of the leading businesses in the United States wanted to be part of that. First event ever at the best concert venue ever built in the United States. It was an extraordinary night. We raised $50,000 for Say Love, United Way, and the Canine Association, Yuba City Canine Association, for the police dog care after they retire. And so, it was just tremendous success. Everybody had a great time. We filled up the steakhouse. In fact, the after party at the Center Bar out there was probably just as much fun as the concert. Everybody got to hang out with Tyler and his band, get autographs, pictures, and then we had Brian and friends and Virgil Atkinson, Kevin Putnam, Kevin's son, and also Ray Allen come up and play all night. The bar actually, the stage at the bar went from 10 to 1. People went crazy. So everybody had a ball. Great night, raised a lot of money, filled up the hotel, filled up the steakhouse out there, filled up the concert venue. The show was amazing. Temecula Road, who also played here right on this patio the night before that, and opened for Tyler out there, and they're killing it at CMA Fest in Nashville right now, along with Tyler. And so yeah, we've had a great run. And by the way, there's 3 performers, Tyler Rich, Temecula Road, and now Nate Smith, who all headlined for me at the event one night or another. And they're all kicking it in Nashville this week. The biggest event in music history is this week in Nashville with CMA Fest this week, with the number of, you name the who's who of music are playing in Nashville this entire week. Pretty great. And we have 3 of the stars there that came from here. Pretty cool.
That's cool. And Larry Garvin, who I used to work with at KUBA, is also a Nashvilleian.
That's right.
These days. Larry is what you would call a working musician. A little tough during the pandemic, but he's been on the road lately. I see some things from his Facebook page from time to time.
Yeah.
So, Larry, if you happen to be watching, we hope that you're having a good time while the events are going on in Nashville this week.
I don't think you can help but have a good time. If you haven't been to Nashville, and my wife and I visited there February this year for the first time, simply amazing. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, John, this has been a great conversation. One last question.
Yeah.
Is there something that we haven't asked you that you think it's important for people to know about you or the community?
I just, again, I think this is the most giving community that exists in California. I mean, per capita. I mean, being part of this community is something that I value and my family values. It's a great place to work, live. Don't be afraid to step out and get involved, because this is a place that you can get involved and make a difference. And that's the beauty of Yuba-Sutter.
And what's next for you?
The John Cassidy Golf and Fishing Society. I'm going to be spending a lot of time on the houseboat at Shasta Lake and a lot of time at Peachtree, making the greenskeepers' lives hell out there. So, yeah, that's going to be a lot of my future for the short run. I'll still be involved in a lot of things, but I'm going to definitely take some time to enjoy some golf and some fishing time and time with the family. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. All good.
Favorite fish?
Oh, I love to fly fish for trout on rivers and streams, and I love to bass fish at Shasta Lake. And so it doesn't matter. It's about the hunt and hooking them and then throwing them back and letting them grow a little bigger. So it's all good.
Great. Well, we have a John Cassidy. We've been talking with John here, and we appreciate his time and being able to order for us something that is very, very tasty. And we're going to let him actually dive in with a fork while we tell you about what's coming up here on Yuba-Sutter.live in the next little bit here. because we do have some interesting stuff going on, and that includes Skip's Marysville Music Cafe, with lessons, in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe.